All right. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was transitioning from a different meeting, and then I have a bit of an issue here, technical issue. My Boya mic sometimes malfunctions, and what I figured out is things only get work if I reboot. And the last thing I wanted to do was to reboot my computer. So I'm using my integrated microphone. I have no idea if the quality is as good, if I'm audible enough. I'll try to bump this up here, but I really appreciate it if one of you could confirm if you can hear me just fine. Hello? Can you hear me just fine? Beautiful, thanks. And I guess I don't have to ask.
Yes, doctor, you're audible.
You're audible, sir.
All right, great. So we're gonna continue our discussion here, right? I don't know what this means here. I see there's just 48 people attending class here. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's because the quiz was so tough. There were weird emails flying around. People were trying to justify why they're failing in class, right? I had a bunch of people come through after the quiz. No, the quiz, first it was the time, and then a bunch of emails where people are first of all claiming that it was not too much, the time was just not enough, right? And next thing you know, and I haven't responded to most recent email, the next thing you know, the argument is, when I highlighted the fact that the questions, the questions were actually based on worked out examples in class, right? The response, one of the responses, I saw that email, a very lengthy email, was from Dennis, I think it was. The response was, part of the text was, but how many people understood that? Well, if you don't understand content I'm teaching you, is it my fault? You had, how many days have you had, right? To come to me, to come and speak to me and tell me, Lighton, I do not understand this, right? You have to wait until there's an assessment, you fail, right? Or you fail to attempt assessment and you start using that as an argument. No, right? That's not how it works. If you don't understand something, and you see, my strategy when I'm teaching is always the same, right? At the beginning of class, at the end of class, if time permits, I will ask you, are there any aspects of what we've covered so far that are not clear, right? Things that you do not understand. If you're quiet, I am going to assume that you understand what we've been looking at. And if you don't tell me, how am I supposed to know that you don't understand? Suffice to say, right? I mean, let's be honest here. I'm going to say this again. I don't know how you're in fourth year if you're failing to do these things, right? I'm gonna get here and ask you, right? Let me ask you. In fact, I'd ask Dennis, how long would it take you for you to do this, right? Including the thinking. This. Forget about this, right? The 3 marks here. Forget about this, right? Before Thursday class, we had a discussion about case folding, right? I walked you through this, and literally, this was rigged, right? Because literally in the Thursday class, I was talking about the things that were going to come in the assessment. This. Now you tell me, right? You tell me, how long should it take you to think about coming up with a solution that has been worked out in class for you? It's in the notebook, right? Worked out for you twice. For you to do this, right? How much time do you need for you to do this, honestly speaking? And you're not in first year here, right? You're in fourth year. How long is it going to take you? Well, I'll tell you this is going to take you less than a minute to do. And I think, was it David or something was making the argument that, well, the variable names, I mean, I took note of that, David, right? I don't know if it's David or something. He said the variable names, this is a thing here, right? They're very elaborate stories, excuses. The variable name is too long, so because of that, the time, fair enough, I will reduce the variable name, right? In fact, I'll reduce it just DF next time so that you write it in just 2 seconds. You know, but I'm coming back to this, right? A worked out example in class. How long is it going to take you to do this? Really, honestly speaking, ladies and gentlemen, we want to be serious with life here, right? And then there's this, maybe this would have been, I don't know, maybe you'd say, well, because of this comprehension and stuff, maybe it was slightly difficult because I was using like a Pythonic way of looping, so I had nested loops, but still, I literally was working through this example, right? It's in the notebook. I was talking about it a day before on Thursday, and the reason I was talking about it is because, I mean, I knew I was going to come in the assessment anyway. I was literally telling you this. In my reptilian brain, I guess, I was sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm just giving these marks away, right? Because the only thing I've tweaked in the questions that I've highlighted so far, this question 2 and question 3, the only things that I've tweaked is what? The data set, that is it. Because the dataset we're using in class is a student performance dataset. And the dataset that I've been consistently using in the 2 assessments we've had so far is the UNZA IR dataset. You know, so you know, when you tell me those things, right? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking this is incompetence 101. Really, it's incompetence 101. And I've told you, I don't know how many of you were around, right? I've told you to say, one, my strategy in this course, I'm telling you again, my strategy is I'm giving you an idea of what's coming in the test very, very soon. I'm giving you an idea of what's coming in the exam. So I'm helping you train yourself for these 2 major assessments. You can't see that, can you? And I keep telling you, if you want this to work, right? For those that have been at least, you know, when I'm marking and you can see that there's something there, right? Even if it's not correct, but there's something there. Those are the people that are probably doing the bulk of the work in the group-based project. The group-based project is designed in such a way that it's going to force you to practice these things. You will write code in the exam, right? They audit these things. I'm going to prepare some assessment that is going to result in people questioning what it is I was doing. They audit these things. They'll come and ask me, show us the assessment questions, show us the content that you covered in class, right? So the assessment has got to have code. You know, so you know, quite frankly speaking, here I'm surprised, I'm baffled, I'm very disappointed, especially that you guys are 4th year, extremely disappointed. So disappointed that I think some of you saw me. I was with Dr. Nyirenda the other day. Is it yesterday? It was, I think. I was raising the same issue. I was telling him to say the quality of these 4th year students. This is the first time I'm interacting with undergraduate students in that department, right? The quality of these 4th years is it's a bit off here. These are people that, if you look at the first assessments, right? People who are even failing to do the very basic things. There's still time to redeem yourself. This is the 23rd of August. We have an assessment on the 28th. We have another assessment on the 4th. I mentioned that I decided to include another lab problem set. So we're going to have 2 more here. And also, you have time, right, to prepare for the test as well. And of course, the exam. So I will ask, are there any questions related to what we've covered so far? Are there any problems? I'm going to tell you something here. If you are doing sociology or something, or philosophy, you know, you can wing it. You can, right? You can wing it by just testing, preparing, you know, reading up a day before the exam or the assessment, or maybe 2 days before, or maybe a week before. That strategy is not going to work for this course, unfortunately. You can do this in software engineering, by the way, right? I think you guys are doing some software engineering course or something. You can do that, you know, but it's not going to help you with this course. It won't. The only thing that is going to help you is you reading, you playing back the notebooks that I'm sharing, you actively participating in whatever work you're doing in your group. Because if you don't participate, so if you're part of a group and your friends notice that you're slacking and they're just sending you, put this commit message here, the exam is going to be extremely, extremely difficult for you. You know, but anyways, are there any questions or thoughts about what we've covered so far? Or please indulge me, right? We might as well maybe turn this into a query session. Then we'll have a makeup tomorrow again after I'm coming back from the workshop. But tell me, are there any issues that you want to bring to my attention besides the issue of time and the variable names, taking that into account, and then any other issues. By the way, I was serious when I said, if I was to tell you to say I'm going to give you 2 hours to do this, if you failed to do that in 10 minutes, I promise you, right? And we can do a test if you want, right? And I'll do a test to prove this to you on Thursday. I will show you that it's not time. The problem is not time. The problem is you. You are not reading. You don't understand this, right? You're not putting in the bare minimum. You see, you guys should be serious. The program documents that have been given to you, you've seen the program documents? You have the program documents, right? A program document associated with this course that you're enrolled into, the different programs that you're enrolled into, has details of, what do you call this? Let me just see if I can find it. There are minimum number of hours that you're supposed to put in, right, into this course. You're supposed to do that, right? And you're not doing that. I know you're not doing that. Let's see if I can find sample program documents so that I demonstrate to you what exactly it is I'm talking about here. I'm probably going to download this or something. I don't know. There's a minimum number of hours that you're supposed to put in this course, right? And that means self-study, right? I'm hand feeding you, right? This is what I've been doing. I'm hand feeding you guys, giving you notebooks, solutions. This is this, multiple notebooks actually, right? I've been making radical changes to the slides so that I simply, in fact, the slides are gradually becoming, what do you call this? They're gradually becoming notes, really. Those are not slides anymore. They're gradually becoming notes. Right? The program document that has been given to you, right? You have been told that you are supposed to, I guess this is not, it's not even there. But each program document for each particular course has so-called credit scores, right? These things here. And these credit scores in part include things like, you want to go back to this document and see, right? This part here that says self-assessments and self-study. In essence, the relative amount of effort that you are expected to put into the course. Go back to this program document and see these details. Okay, are there any thoughts or questions about this? What is the problem? Tell me. What is difficult about this? Sorry? Okay. If there are no thoughts or questions, we're going to continue then. Let me see I just saw something here on my mobile device. There's let's see if there are questions here. I was like, can we just request a little more time? Yeah, sure. I mean, we'll see. I want to do an experiment. It's an experiment here. Request more time to do. We just need a little more time. Yeah, we'll give you time if time is an issue here. We started as tracer. I don't know what that means here, Lucky. I don't know what you mean. Doc, we're kindly requesting give more tutorial questions, and hence, yeah, sure. I mean, I was talking to Hudson the other day. Supposed to share a tutorial worksheet based on what we're doing right now, more detailed. I'm concerned about the clarity of the questions themselves. The second part of the question seems to be slightly unclear. Okay, I'm not sure if we some slightly misspellings. Example code, the return series of. Okay, I mean, if there are typos here, always raise up your hand. I'll check if there are typos. I do apologize if there were a bit unclear here. The questions don't know what you mean, but I can take a look at them and then I'll work on that. If I think he's referring to this second part here where I was, this is the second part here, right? Where I was saying, you have the CRISP-TM model here using the dataset provided. Specify and describe any generic tasks linked to data preparation and any syntactically correct code that would perform the generic task. But I don't know what was a bit unclear about this question here, but what we're essentially asking you is go to data preparation, and in data preparation, just tell us any generic task associated with data preparation phase, any generic task of your choice. Using that task, write any piece of code, right, that would enable you to perform that generic task. So if you remember, data preparation is where you do a bit of preprocessing. So if you just showcase, so you can case fault, you get marks for free. This is what we meant here. So I don't know what part of that was a bit unclear here. My concern is on the time. Yeah, we've taken note of that. Give us an assessment right time. Give us assessments at the right time, not 18 hours. Yeah. Oh, so here's the thing, right? What I do is here's the thing. What I do is I do not just wake up and suggest to say we're going to have an assessment at 18 hours. What I do is I go through the two people that you've chosen to represent you every time, right? There's this WhatsApp group where there's myself, Professor Piri, Dr. Nyirenda, because we're supposed to co-teach this. The last communication I had with your two course reps is I told them, because I keep an eye out on what's happening, not all the time, really, but I keep an eye out on what's happening in the WhatsApp group, right? And sometimes I will come across interesting comments. So I noticed that the issue of 18 hours was so much of an issue, right? And so what I did was I asked you, do you then want us to write the assessment at 12 hours, right? During the lecture. This was on the day of the assessment in the morning, right? This was at 7:42. Can we write the assessment at 12 then during the lecture session? And then we can have a makeup lecture, a virtual lecture, because some people are complaining about time. If 12 hours is not possible, I am also available at 13 hours. But if you don't want us to have an assessment at 12 and you don't want us to have an assessment at 13 hours, the only other time we can have an assessment is 18. And you guys, through your two course representatives, suggested 18 hours. So it's not me, right? It's not me. And in fact, the day prior, in the evening, when we were supposed to have that assessment, the Bosch assessment, Mlela came through, right? And she was looking at her phone and she tells me, Fridays are really good. So on Friday, I think she mentioned that the only time we're going to be preoccupied, the only time there's a group, a program which is preoccupied, I think she mentioned 10 or something. So in my mind, I was thinking that you guys were going to choose 12 or 13. So why did you not choose 12 or 13? Right? But I've taken note of that. This is the reason why I responded in one of my emails today. I can't remember if it was Joshua who sent that email or something. I mentioned that if I think he was responding to my announcement that we have an assessment on Thursday at 18 hours, right? There was a bit of back and forth. No, why can't you administer your assessments at during the lecture time instead of at 18? By the way, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is not my assessment, it's your assessment. You're the ones that are attempting this assessment, right? But my response to him was that we have had a conversation around this and have mentioned that we do not want to disrupt the lecture slot. We only have about 18 sessions left. Sorry, 8 sessions left. 8 lectures left. If we start using up the lecture session for assessments, it won't work out here. Right? And so what I did again is I mentioned that the other option is, if you want as a group, you decide, you tell me, we can administer this assessment at 7 hours on Thursday. I'm assuming nobody is going to be busy with presentations or God knows what else you're busy with at 7 hours, right? And the people that have been complaining about staying in Matero and I don't know where else you stay and that it's not safe will probably be able to make it in time to come and write the assessment at 7. Right? So again, all you have to do, your 4th years, you're not kids, is as a group, decide which slot you want us to have the assessments, and then through your course reps, you let me know, right? So I hope I've answered that question to do with the not 18 hours. This is coming from, and this is not the first time you're mentioning this, is Precious who's saying this. Lau says, give as many questions as possible, please. Oh, I will on Thursday, I don't know. Francis says question 1-3 answer. I'll look at the question 1-3, Francis. 10 minutes is not enough. Okay. I've taken note of the fact that 10 minutes is not enough. But, you know, guys, I'm going to go back to the 10 minutes, right? Really. Let's be honest. Let me do a poll here. Now that you know what you're supposed to do, assuming you had read up on this question I'm looking at here, question 2, be honest, right? How much time do you think you would have needed for you to come up with this solution? Just type in the chat. Just be honest here. for this particular question, right? I'm just using that as an example. This question to do with case forwarding, one which is like 2 marks. How much time would you have needed for you to, no, Joshua, don't be, you're joking now. For that question, you'd need 25 minutes. Yeah, you know, I think we're wasting time here. You guys are a bunch of jokers. I don't understand what's going on here. But I'm just going to ignore that here. 10 minutes is not enough. I've taken note of that, Cry. Sir, we are really committed to, no, you're not. You characters are not committed. You know how I know you're not committed? Look at this. I wish I could. No, you wouldn't need 5 minutes for that, Lupando. Don't lie here. You know, the way I know you're not. Let me show you something here. I want to show you something. The way I know you're not committed, right? And I hope I'll be able to do this. I haven't been able to analyze the data. I just take a glimpse of the things that you guys do. But let's do this, right? Let's try and see if we can do this here. I'm just going to download everything and see. I hope this thing is not polluted in such a way that it has a lot of, okay, doesn't, that's okay. I want to see something here. I'll filter on event context, I guess. I'll filter on event context, and then I'll also filter on, yeah, event context is what I'll filter on. I guess it should be able to work here. I hope it will be able to work. I'll filter on event context, and then I'll also I want to filter by, yeah, I'll also pull the event context itself, and then I'm gonna filter by, I'll count these things, and then I'll filter by name because I don't want myself to be included here. So I'm gonna look for my name, and then I'll remove it. Yeah. I'm gonna filter by, I want to remove myself here. I'll call back this person. I want to remove myself from here. And you know, one of the other things I'll have to do is I wonder if I can do a unique here. Maybe not, but maybe I'll also filter by event context as well. Because I'm only interested in the notebooks, I guess. I don't know. And this thing is not showing me the event context. I don't know why it's working like this. Oh, it's coming here. Okay. I'm going to remove this so that I look at the notebooks I've shared so far. I don't really care so much about the slides, really. And this, the thing with the way I've created this thing here is I don't think it's picking unique. I don't think it's picking unique entries here. But I just wanted to showcase to you that I can tell from here, right? Just by looking at, and these are raw counts because some of you access this thing multiple times or something. The point I'm trying to put across is you're not reading, you know? You're not reading these things. I know that most of these people actually, these are multiple people. And in fact, I probably would have, I probably could probably filter this by and get unique entries. But anyway, it'd be nice if we could do this as part of a tutorial. We analyze how we access the mood or something. But the point I'm trying to put across is that you people are not just engaging with the course. That's it. You're not engaging with the course because the questions I'm asking are in the notebooks, you know, which is quite sad, really. Anyways, I don't know if there are any other thoughts here about this, but 25 minutes, I think give many questions was from practice tutorials. Okay. Okay. Let's see if there's more questions here or more thoughts about. I think this is it. Is it? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've taken note of these things, ladies and gentlemen. Unless if there are any questions, I guess we can just continue with class here. There's this. I don't know why this thing is stuck here, but I'm using my device here. There's Christ. Thank you, so guys. Let's take this seriously and find. Yeah, if you don't take this, thank you, Christ. You know, if you're not taking this seriously, right? And I don't mean this. I'm not trying to come out as this person who is trying to make your life difficult here. It's not me, right? It's a system. But if you're not taking this seriously, you're coming back next year, unfortunately. You know, I don't have control over these things, right? I just can't here make a unilateral decision to say, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to make this simple. So I can't do that, right? So if you're not engaging with this course and you fail, you're coming back. You know, unfortunately, this is our degree. Yes, it is. So the question is not how much time is needed. How do we know if the question is the same or not? Okay. Some people have to properly analyze. Yeah, we've taken note of that, Mr. Course Repsa. How are we not just committed to your course and so committed to others? I don't know. I haven't engaged with other course instructors. I was talking to Dr. Nyirenda about his course. I don't know if he teaches you in that course. He's seen the same problems I'm seeing. So when you are claiming here that how you're not just committed, Miss Precious, but you're committed to other courses, maybe you are as an individual, right? But for the most part, most of you are not committed to this course, right? Then he says also keep your questions as clear as possible, like write a code snippet to add a new column or something. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I haven't. This is the first time, Dennis, I'm getting feedback from somebody to say maybe the grammar is not very clear. I'll try as much as possible to dumb it down a bit, make it a bit more clearer, I guess. Thanks for that. And then, so a request, please, is at least 20 minutes. Okay. I didn't know a series was a list. A data frame is a bunch of lists. The index is, say, a series is a column. I don't understand that question, Kunda. But a series is not a list, right? It's a separate type of data type. You know, series is not a list. It's a different type of data type, is it? So if I get gender here and use the type built-in, right? It will show you the type of data type you're working with. The type of data type you're working with has a bearing on what sort of things you can do, operations and functions and stuff. So a series is a completely different. It's not a list. Different sort of data types. This is what would be a list. What I've created right now here. If I cast this into a list, this is a list, right? And then yeah. So I don't know. So, but a series is yes, a series is the equivalent of a column. So when you have something like var student database like this, these are what we're calling series, right? It's a series. It's going to be, but not really the name itself, right? The value, right? The range of values associated with this column is what's called a series, right? This is why we need to specify the slice itself when we are accessing the series itself, like this final examination or something like that. All right, gentlemen and ladies, thank you very much for the feedback. What you brought is quite different from, yeah, but listen, Harrison. I'm not, here's the thing, and I'll be a fool here if I copy paste the things that are in the notebook in the quiz, right? Nobody does that. What I'm saying is that if you look at the notebook and the examples I've been giving in class, it's the same thing. The only difference is the data set. That's it. It's here. I'm not just saying this, it's here. Here. Here in the preprocessing techniques. You remember this? It's in the slides. You see this? Sorry, it is stemming here. Here is a code. We're discussing this, page 80 of the slides. Right? What else? Case forwarding. It's here. The only difference is that what I have here are not making use of the same data frame. And so I guess part of the assessment really is to try and see, right? Part of what I'm trying to get at here, by the way, is if you look at the questions, is I'm trying to see if you understand this thing you're seeing here. If you're able to interpret this, because this has a bearing on what sort of solutions you're going to provide. And then Kunda says, is it possible to have a guest lecture to see if we can maybe understand with a different approach? Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I can tell you for that. I mean, I'll tell Professor, in fact, I should remind Professor Piri, I was getting really excited about this, and I'm like, I'm going to continue with this course until the end. But what I can do is I can tell maybe Professor Piri or Dr. Nirenda to come in and give a lecture on all the sessions here. You know, and then we'll see if the scores, but it's going to be difficult here, right? You can't design an experiment like that, is it? Maybe the content is going to cover is not going to be as difficult to grasp as what I've covered or something like that. But we can do that. We don't have a lot of time left, but we can try. Not a problem. Thanks, Kunda. I think the problem is that the lectures we cover slightly a lot, and Benaya, I think the problem is that the lectures we cover slightly a lot and notebooks to understand for quiz we do. Now this is interesting. So his argument here. So Lushom is saying he's saying that there's a lot of things to go through. I think in a sense, in the sense that we're given 1 week, sometimes 4 days to cover on a notebook. No, come on, guys. No, that's not true. When did we cover? No. You're not being sincere, sir. And the beauty with me is that I document what I do, right? I'm big on that. If you look at the playlist we have, we were covering case forwarding a long time ago, right? You had quite a bit of time here to prepare for the quiz. Just like right now, the content that we are going to bring on Thursday is mostly stuff that we've already covered as part of lecture series number 4. You know, so I don't know about that here. I really don't know about that, but all right. Let's try and see if we can do something. Thank you very much for the feedback. I'm going to insist that maybe we have a class on Monday when I'm back from the workshop or something. Tomorrow I'll be busy because you've eaten into my time here today, into lecture time. But guys, what we did was we started looking at transformation, is it? And we as part of transformation, one of the things that we did was we introduced this this new package. We are easing our way into using the scikit-learn package. We know how to install it. And I highlighted something interesting. I don't know how many of you were paying attention, but I was trying to showcase to us how we use the one hot encoder, right? The one hot encoder as a replacement for the get dummies function in Python pandas. Observe, what we're saying is that when we have this thing here, what we can do to one hot encode this is we can do this, is what we said here. Gender, and then we can run pd dot get dummies. pd dot get dummies. And what pd dot get dummies is going to do is it's going to return a new vector, right? Or a new data frame, in other words. If you check the type of this, is a data frame here. Now, if this is a data frame, one of the things that we can do, right, is we can say because the analysis we're going to do is going to involve other things in the original data frame. So what we can do with this, we said, is we can do a pd.concat, is it? If you remember the merging functions. Concat allows us to merge, right? We can merge data frames. And we realize that these data frames are merged in such a way that we feed them a list, yes, a list of the things that we want to merge. So in this particular case, we want to merge the original data frame and the one hot encoded. Sorry, missed the thing here. The thing we want to merge is this has got to be merged to with this. Is it? So what we do is we have got to feed this as a list, right? This has got to be fed as a list to pd.concat, like that. We feed it a list. We said we know this. We've gone through this function. And then, interestingly enough, we realize that there's a flag that we have to use, right? A parameter called axis, right? And typically, if you want this to be done column-wise, which is what we're doing, you use axis is equal to 1, like this. And so, ultimately, what we would have to do is would have to say, we want to create a new student database. I'll just call this modified or something, to include the merged version of the data frame, so that when we check the new structure of this thing, it will then have some of these additional columns we have, right? F and M. In other words, what we want ultimately is to have a situation where if we get the very first value here, would actually be able to tell, to say this person, even though the name that was used to replace this is a male name, Elijah Temba, Mahomani or something, but this person is female. Is it because the newly introduced, one of the newly introduced columns, which is F, is a true. True is a 1, is it? False is a 0. If you remember this. Now, what I said was that this is using the pandas get dummies function, but it turns out that this is not very efficient, but also it doesn't really integrate quite well with some of the things we're going to be doing as part of the modeling process. So what we said is that what we can then do is we can take advantage of what typically happens. I mean, we can take advantage of the sklearn library, right? You remember this sklearn, right? Wonderful library. We can take advantage of this by doing from sklearn.preprocessing, we said. We can import what we said was one hot encoder, if you remember, right? One hot encoder, so that we use the scikit-learn, to essentially, I don't know why it says type here, but we use scikit-learn here to one hot encode. Now, what we discovered was that the procedure we follow is slightly different when we're using scikit-learn. And this is important because the things that we are doing with the one hot encoder here, the process I was walking us through, is more or less the same as what we're going to be doing when we're accessing these estimators, right? We fit and transform, and then we predict, for instance. So the API is consistent like that, right? So what we said is the process we do is we import from scikit-learn like this, and then we'll create a variable, right? I'll just call this encoder. We create an instance of one hot encoder. And then what we do when we create an instance of one hot encoder is we've got to fit this, is it? So we'd say one hot encoder dot fit, and we prefer to, the preferred way of doing this, you can do it stepwise. You can fit first and then you transform, right? So I can do a var encode fit and then transform, but the more elegant way of doing this is you can do a fit transform, right? We are fitting what in essence, we are trying to tell one hot encoder to say, can you learn the pattern associated with var student database? And I'll use the modified one. Can you help us learn the pattern associated with this gender? This expects a 2D array, by the way. It expects it's encoder, not encode. It expects a 2D array, right? I don't know why this is saying fit transform like that, right? So this thing is expecting a 2D array. If I just feed it a series, it won't work. Observe, if I do this, it's not going to work, right? So take note of the fact that it's expecting a 2D array. So in actual fact, this is the syntax, right? 2 square brackets. So I've actually fit and transformed it, but because we're doing this, the thing to do is what you are going to have to do, and I didn't mention this, is you want to create a variable. I'm going to call this var encoder data is equal to this, so that if I check the type of this var encoder data, it's going to tell me that this is a sparse matrix. Now, there's something interesting about the sparse matrix, right? It turns out that if you think about the format we have for is it male and female? If you look at the observations, right? Each observation is supposed to store two separate values, right? A 0, a 1, or something. So the idea behind the sparse matrix really is quite simple. It's a more efficient data structure that is primarily, or sometimes is used to store data that contains a large number of zeros. And if you look at what we're doing when we're one-hot encoding, this is a classic use case where you would want to use a sparse matrix. It's all about efficiency. And in fact, gender is a horrible example, right? Think of what we are doing when we are working with, if you, let's say you had 100 or 10,000 categorical attributes. It's like for each observation, if you had 100 of them, you'll have student ID. For each observation, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to go all the way up to maybe, let's say 10 anyway, or 9 is okay. It's like for each observation, for this student 1, student 2, 3, 4, 5, you would have to, if you're using get dummies, you are storing, assuming 1 here, but these are zeros. It's counterproductive for you to store these things, right? What makes sense is for you to just store this in such a way that you are keeping track of where the 1 has got to be. And that's the idea behind the sparse matrix. You know, it's like instead of storing everything, what you're doing is you're just keeping track of where exactly is the 1, and then everything else is ignored because it's going to be a 0 anyway. You know, so I mean, there you go. If in case you are thinking, well, what's the deal with one-hot encoder, right? But so we're creating a variable var encoder data. We fit and transformed. In essence, if you look at var encoder data, right, you won't be able to see anything much because this is a sparse matrix here. Encoder data, it's sparse like this, but you can do things like to array or something, right, to see the structure, right? 1s and 0s, just 2 values we've created. Now, the thing is, because this is a sparse matrix, ultimately what we want to do is we want to do what we've done to this. We want to create additional columns like this, F and M, so that we stitch them back to the data frame itself. This is my approach. Usually I'll encode and then I stitch them to the original data frame until I get to the stage where I'm modeling, and then I'll just pick the IVs, right, the independent variables, and then use the model to learn, right, as I'm feeding it the dependent variables or something, the labels. This is for supervised machine learning. But anyway, so if this is what we want to do, then what we can do with a sparse matrix is we can say, I think there should be a var encoder to get, okay, so I can get the feature names, right? And then what I can do is I can say, to make this a lot easier, I can say var encoder feature names or something. In essence, just the names that represent this, because this sparse matrix, if you look at it, right, you may not see this really, but if you look at this sparse matrix, it won't have the labels up on top here. Where is it? Here, right? So I don't know what this first parameter is. I don't know what this is. So in essence, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get us to a point where I'm using this sparse matrix to derive a data frame which I can then stitch to my original data frame. Okay, so I create the feature names, and then once I create the feature names, what I can then do is I can create, I'm running out of names here. I'll call this encoder data frame. I'll create the encoder data frame, and then I'll say this encoder data frame is going to be created in such a way that I get, because I need this picture, let me just check the encoder. Encoder data is what I need. I think this is where the space matrix is. But I need to use this this space matrix to essentially using the feature names. I'll use them as columns and then use the values so that I derive a data frame. This is what I'm trying to create here. So I'm just going to say var encoder data frame is going to be equal to, and what I can do is I can potentially just use the pandas data frame, right? pd.data frame, so that I create a data frame, and this data frame is going to include this space matrix here. This, I don't know why the pasting is taking a while here. There we go. So it's going to include this the space matrix, and then I'm going to specify. We want to read up on the pd.data frame here. I'm going to say I want the columns to be the equivalent of the way pandas data frame works is that you feed it you feed it an iterable object that is going to be used as input for data that is going to comprise that particular data frame, and then you specify the columns, right, for the data frame. The columns in this particular case are going to be this thing I've created here, the var encoder feature names, like that. And hope this should be able to work. I know why it's not working here. I have columns. Let me just check here. I think this thing is already to, is it? Oh, sorry. This is supposed to be to array, is it? Dot to array, like this. Beautiful. So I'll come here. I'm creating a data frame. The encoded data, because this is sparse matrix, right? I want to convert it into a dense matrix. And what I'll do is I'll just use the to_array method, right? So that the data frame I've created now, this, actually just has encoder data frame. It only has two columns, right? Gender F and gender M. In fact, you can do the usual, head one here, like this, right? Now that we have this data frame, I can then expand upon this, so that in addition to these two new columns that I created using the pandas.getDummies function, I will stitch the ones created using the one-hot encoder. And you guessed it, what I can do to accomplish this is I can again take advantage of what I did before, is it? I'll say var student modified, I'll call this new, is equal to pd.concat, is it? Because I'll concatenate the original one, which has the two additional columns here, F and M. I'll concatenate this with the one that I've just created right now, the encoder data frame here, this. Where is it? This. But you see now, I didn't even, I thought I created it. I don't know if I created it here. This, the encoder data frame. So in essence, what I want to do is I'm saying I want to I want to merge the original data frame with the newly created data frame. On the axis, column-wise, I want to do this column-wise. Because the structure is the same, it's 273, this side 273. So I'm just saying whatever lies on index 0, merge. Whatever lies on index 1, merge, right? So that ultimately I have this. Again, concat, remember that concat takes in a list, is it? So these things that you're concatenating are supposed to be a list, like this. And then now if I check the structure of modified new, I check the columns, I will have these two things here, gender F and gender M. The ones created using the one-hot encoder from scikit-learn. And true to that, if I just pick one item at index 0, transpose, and you can see them, right? I can see that the things that are created using getDummies here are considered to be Boolean. I have true and false, but this is 1, this is false. And then if I use one-hot encode, I have this. So in other words, right, what I'm trying to showcase here is if you decide to use this approach, if you decide to use this approach, you're going to have to do a few additional steps, right? There's a little bit of additional work that you'd have to perform. But from a compute perspective, and this is important, right? We're computer scientists here. From a compute perspective, it is an efficient way of storing data. Now, I know, Lighton, it's 2025. We are now at a time when we use commodity PCs that have 32 GB of RAM. Fair enough, I guess. Maybe it's not important, but you find yourself working with more complex data, right? Not this toy data set that I've been playing around with here. We're talking about gigabytes of data here. Anyways, I thought I would mention this here. Now, it turns out, right? So we have also a way of handling ordinal encoders. This is straightforward. All you do is you take advantage of your dictionary, and you're providing a mapping, right? Whatever is no experience, replace with 1, waiting. Whatever is 1 year experience, replace with maybe 3 as a waiting. And then you just do a replace. This is simple, right? You can just replace. If you want, you can use pandas.replace. If you want, you can create your own function and then use .apply, right? Pretty straightforward here. So pretty straightforward. But the question to ask is, how can we do this using scikit-learn, right? So you notice that in all of these different instances where we're one hot encoding, for instance, using one hot encoding nominal values, nominal attributes, there's you can have like a Pythonic way of doing this where you write your own code, or you can take advantage of pandas to get dummies, or you can use scikit-learn. Turns out that with ordinal attributes, you can do the same thing, right? You use pandas.replace. It's pretty straightforward. Right? All you please do this. Use the student at risk of failing dataset, and in fact, I'm not going to do this in class. This is homework for you. Do this. Import it from sklearn. Import ordinal encoder from sklearn. Procedure, right? Where you fit and transform, right? And then you get to the final stage or something. Is there are there any questions?
So I can think that maybe you might just post the homework. Yeah.
Okay, sure. We will hand feed you here. That's okay. It's hand holding here. It's like, but usually hand holding is not done with 4th years. It's okay. I'll do that. I'll post our homework for you. That's fine. I want to suggest something to the course reps. I'll liaise with the course rep. We wasted time here. Sometimes when I feel very strongly about something, when I'm trying to put a point across to explain my perspective, my worldview, I'll end up wasting a bit of time, which we did today. My goal was for us to look at the heuristic for the bag of words, look at the heuristic for TF-IDF before we transition to the next stage. So I know the next 2 days are going to be busy for me, Monday and stuff, but I'll liaise with Ms. Mlela and Mr. Chela here to find out if maybe we can have a session to make up for the time when we were discussing admin-centric things. If not, try and see if we can find time here. But I will see you guys when you see me. Hopefully Monday, possibly Monday, but probably Tuesday, right? Thanks, everybody. I'll upload these, you know, and you don't have to watch the videos. These days, there are tools you can use. You can summarize the videos and stuff. But please, right? There isn't, you know, guys, I must say this. I know I'm supposed to transition to a different meeting, but I want to say this. The attrition rate at 4th year is not supposed to be a lot. People that drop off. If there are a lot of people, what ends up happening is you have to explain. The previous lecture was already uploaded, Mike. It's right there on YouTube. You have to explain, right? So if you guys perform poorly, I'm gonna have to explain to the board of examiners, right, why you're failing. And believe it or not, they just don't assume that students are incompetent or something. Sometimes they'll think it's a lecture and you have to explain, right? And it's one of the reasons myself why I keep evidence and, you know, these metrics. Say, here are my lectures, go and watch them, play them back and see if there's any content that hasn't been covered or something. So I'm just saying there isn't really a lot of time here. We only have 1, 2, 3 weeks before we are done with the course. You know, so 3 weeks before we write the major test, you know, 3 weeks before we are done with the course, 3 weeks before you do your final, the presentations for group-based projects. I want to say maybe probably 5 or 6 weeks before you actually write the exam for this course, right? So, you know, take this seriously and leave this place, right? It will be sad if I see you again next year. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye.